ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of One Akata Nation News Hour with Solon's number one edutainer, Petty Murphy, here reporting to you live from the back of the classroom at Foundational Black America's number one source for edutainment, Akata News Network. Now, today we will be getting over to the Plantation Studio with our one and only Nap P. Newton as he breaks down the actual facade of the Black and Brown Coalition. And with that, I say, someone pass the mole-covered taquitos and hold the mariachi, because we don't play that shit around here. And with that, I say, breaking news. What's cracking? You already know what it is. Ain't nothing new under the sun. But before we even get into this, I want to first start off with some prominent quotes from some of Mexican America's greatest civil rights minds. Basically, their versions of MLK and Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, Huey P. Newton, Gus Garcia. One moment. Let me freshen the fuck up. Gus Garcia, and John J. Herrera. Have a gander. Yeah, this is their best, and this is how they actually have always felt. So, what you're about to see, in fact, the first video I'm going to show you in this gentleman's sentiments will literally be basically seeing the grandson or grandson's collective thinking of these gentlemen. And I present to you, roll that beautiful bean footage.
I am so sick of scrolling online and watching Black Americans sit there and advise their people not to support the immigration movement that's going on across the entire United States. What have they done for us? They never supported our protests. Yes, they have. Go watch some old footage. You're going to see people in different shades, different colors, even sizes. It's a beautiful thing. And now, I'm not simply going after Black Americans, because I'm watching Hispanics, Latinos with legal status that simply just betrayed their people, saying, we don't support this. You know what's crazy? Back in those days, Black Americans weren't the only ones that were fighting for civil rights, for equality. You had the Puerto Ricans, you had the Chicanos, you had Black Americans. And the beautiful thing is that even back in those days, there was unity going on behind closed doors. You had the Chicano movement, the Brown Berets, you had the Puerto Ricans, the Young Lords, you had the Black Panthers, all united. And guess what? Back in those days, you had people like this spreading that same harmful rhetoric. Oh, we shouldn't unite with the Puerto Ricans. Oh, we shouldn't unite with the Chicanos. Yeah, even back in those days, it was happening. If that wasn't the case, those movements would have been a lot larger. But guess what? There was a small group of people that saw the vision, and every time they united, they were successful. And unfortunately, back in those days, it was eventually broken apart when one of the leaders ended up passing away, or they were hit with RICO charges, and eventually they just dispersed. A lot of people don't know this, but back in the day, during Martin Luther King, he understood the vision. He understood, and he motivated the Puerto Ricans to form and fight for their civil rights and equality, and the Chicanos, and they did. They formed their stuff. And guess what? I love this quote, and it says a whole lot. It says, we cannot walk alone. We will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Martin Luther King. Guess what? These are your neighbors, your friends, and even family. And that type of abandonment is loud. I think all of us felt that type of abandonment throughout our lives at a smaller scale, from friends, betrayal, and so on. You wanted someone to speak up for you, and they didn't. Why would you expect civil rights, equality for your people, but not for everyone else? Doesn't make much sense, does it? See, now we're going backwards. But what they don't want us to do is unite. Because all them streets that you see right now in Los Angeles, New York, and so on, guess what? If we come together, they will be even more full. Every square footage of them streets will be completely covered. And they don't want that. I hate that Hispanic Latinos go against their interests. I call them out all the time, especially with what Donald Trump is doing. And even Black Americans, you know that Donald Trump was actually at a military event, and he goes on to say that he's renaming military bases to Confederate generals' names. Do you know what the Confederacy represents? It represents them preserving slavery back in those days. I'm sick and tired of y'all going against your own interests. The people that are speaking and passing on this harmful rhetoric for even the younger people, guess what? Y'all are not even any better than the white supremacy. Who needs the white supremacy when they have you doing the work for them? With that being said, I'm going to leave y'all with that. Like this video, comment, be respectful, and as always, follow me.
Get him, Puffy Lion Dog.
Black people in Mexico were not even acknowledged until recent years. Their presence was not acknowledged by the government up until very recent years. But yet, they have been there since days of slavery. You understand? So, since the days of slavery, a lot of the slaves in North America, in the United States, a lot of the slaves ran to Mexico to hide. And a lot of them have been living there. And not only that, but a lot of these Spaniards, they brought some slaves to Mexico too. So black people have been in Mexico for hundreds of years. But Mexican government has not acknowledged their presence until very recent years. And that is why I made a video and called it Afro-Mexican. Because these people have been there for many years with their own communities, speaking Spanish, of course, but they acknowledge their African ancestry. They acknowledge it. That's why they self-identify as Afro-Mexican, because they're acknowledging their African roots. And the government has not bothered with them. When you watch telenovelas, Spanish telenovelas, have you ever seen a black man? No, never. But yet, black people have been there since the Europeans have been there for hundreds of years.
So, before we get to the rest of the clips, I want to unpack a little bit of that because there was a lot said there. But what I find utterly mind-blowing is how he started off saying that, Black America, where are you? Okay, where are we? You tell me, sir. But where are you? I mean, you all did vote against your own best interest, correct? And I kind of understand it to a degree. Trust me, I do. But before you go telling anyone what they should be doing for you, you need to be making sure that you're doing for self. You can't blame us for your problems. Just like we had to start our own civil rights movement. And our problem was that in our civil rights movement, we fought for everyone else's problems. That's why y'all are here now. And what a lot of people don't realize, which after these next set of clips, I'm going to show how the gaslighting, the underhanded debauchery, and the fuckery of these people, how they've been playing in your face, fronting like they minorities, when they've always been white under color of law. Just like all illegals, illegals, but all immigrants or naturalized citizens that come through the immigration naturalization process, on paper, under color of law, even the black ones as black as you are white. And you're going to see Muhammad Ali explain what he experienced in his lifetime. These are the things that they like to leave out of history. And it's your responsibility to go educate yourself. So we're going to spin the block on these other clips, and then we're going to come back and we're going to rap about it.
We couldn't eat in the restaurants in Louisville. We couldn't eat downtown. One day I saw two Africans go in with their robes and their turbans. They couldn't speak English. I heard the man say, "Let them in, they're not Negroes." I said, something's wrong. I can't say it's because I'm black, because they're so black and they're blue, but they went in. So I said, well, I get my Olympic gold medal, then I'll go in. I went and got my gold medal, went back in, ordered 2 cheeseburgers, and they said, sorry, we don't serve Negroes. I said, I don't eat them either, just give me 2 cheeseburgers. And she said, you getting smart. She called the manager and he said something about, I don't care who he is. She said, Cassius Clay, I don't care who he is. Anyway, but I couldn't, the idea was I couldn't eat this.
Negro is a term that was applied to us during slavery by the slave master. And right today, it's a term that is used only to point out the descendant of slaves. It's never used for black people, period. Africans can come to this country. They aren't called Negroes. And if they are called Negroes, they resent it. So if Negro meant black, as we've been taught, it would be a term that would be applicable to or applicable to everyone. But he says that it is something that means a slave or something who is, it means something that has been left out of society, politically, economically, educationally, and otherwise.
You don't think of it as an anthropological term?
Definitely. It's not an anthropological term. It's a slave term. And it was a term that was invented in America and was used by the slave makers, slave traders, and slave masters and attached to the property or the chattel or merchandise that our people represented.
Any experiences with segregation here in this country?
Well, I've just got something quite insignificant. You know, people get to know that I'm a foreigner, and so they treat me differently. When I came at first, I tried to get an American haircut, appeared in American clothes as best as possible and as much as possible, just for people to discriminate against me. And I've never had such an occasion. I've been trying to get it, but I mean, it seems as if I've been getting the best, actually.
You met segregation at all here?
I've not met it. I think they must be pretty lucky, because I've been looking forward to get the segregation against me, but have not got it yet. It's an irony that the South African will get it and I wouldn't get it myself.
We couldn't eat in the restaurants in Louisville. We couldn't eat downtown. One day I saw two Africans go in with their robes and their turbans. They couldn't speak English. I heard the man say, "Let them in, they're not Negroes." I said, something's wrong. I can't say it's because I'm black, because they're so black and they're blue, but they went in. So I said, well, I get my Olympic gold medal, then I'll go in. I went and got my gold medal, went back in, ordered 2 cheeseburgers, and they said, sorry, we don't serve Negroes. I said, I don't eat them either, just give me 2 cheeseburgers. And she said, you're getting smart. She called the manager, and he said something about, I don't care who he is. She said, I don't care who he is. Anyway, but the idea was I couldn't eat this.
How would I say, a large change in the black community. There's a lot of black people now in America who weren't from here. There's people coming from Africa, sure. People coming from the Caribbean. Guess what? When I teach, some of my best students came from Africa. They came from another culture. They're black, but their educational system and their educational focus is a little different. And guess what? The big major universities have noticed this difference. And so they want a certain black population, but they prefer a population that is not as troublesome and not as poorly educated as the indigenous black population.
I thank you. We back. So yeah, that's what it is for today. And it is what it is. I ain't even got to go too much deeper on that. But one of the things that I find diabolical is that the same people who were themselves liberated, they were granted their independence from Mexico's first black president, right? He was actually black, or mestizo. And what'd they do? They assassinated him. I find it odd that in a country that's asking for Black America's help, they just started in 2020 recognizing their own black residents. They just started recognizing in 2020 their own black residents. And I had a conversation with someone the other day. You know, sometimes things kind of get lost in translation, or people think they're talking about the same thing, but they aren't. And there's a big difference between race and ethnic origin. And a lot of us think because people come from these homogeneous societies that there's no racism. No. They understand. They may tell you, oh, no, we don't classify like that. We classify as an ethnic group. So then why, if you go to Jamaica where they say, one Jamaica, we all one, but between the Indians there and the Chinese and the actual Maroons, there's always racial tension? Or why all through South America, just based off of skin tone and hair texture, mejor la raza, y maete, moyo. I mean, if these people couldn't see racial classifications and they didn't exist in their societies or their cultures, they wouldn't have the disparities that they have in education, healthcare, and racial violence targeted against amongst specific groups just because of the way that they look. So don't let these people fool you. They have never been our allies. They're not trying to be your allies. They want to use your power, your light. They want you to put your body on the line to protect what they think they're entitled to when they have never, ever wanted to align with you or help you in your fight. Listen to what Byron Donaldson told you. Listen to what AOC told you. They know that they were not here. Even though they all say immigrants built this country, they know that we're not here for the foundation, the building of this country. That's why they know that if reparations are granted to Black Americans, they will not get any. And because of that, they vote against you. That is a vote against your people after we fought in the Civil Rights Act to import them here. And the whole time they've been coming here, again, under color of law, like I've just shown you on paper, they're what? So when they tell you, oh, I'm a bigger minority than you are, they fought for minority status so they could just undermine your black ass. Diabolical. But on that note, I'm going to slide out of here. Y'all be safe out there, man. Enjoy your new year. And remember, realize, and transparency forces accountability. Y'all keep your eyes to the stars. Keep that head on a swivel. And remember, it's a dirty game. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the house studio. Andale, arriba, arriba. You can tell us who you are all you want, but we don't believe you. You need more people. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was just a masterclass on how the Black and Brown Coalition was never a thing and has always been a facade. And you know, I find it odd when you hear things about how proud they were of the Brown Berets, which were just a carbon copy of the Black Panthers, and a shitty one at that. So when people tell you that you have no culture, but they're just a shitty copy of what they claim is shit, well then, you shittier than the shittiest shit. And with that, I bid you all adieu. The one, the only, Petty Murphy, here reporting to you live from the back of the classroom at Akata News Network. I say to you all, God bless, be safe out there, and always remember, my fellow miates, mejora la raza, mejora la raza, mejora la raza. Mi vida loca, vatos locos forever, Simone S.